Hi guys, so today I'm gonna go over some updated news, mainly from late April, and a couple things from May, all 2025. This is an act from NPR. So this one talks about how DOGE employees gain accounts on classified networks holding nuclear secrets. It's from April 28, 2025. So two members of Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, were given accounts on classified networks that hold highly guarded details about America's nuclear weapons. Why is that a problem, right? This is a big issue because having some random people who are not elected officials who are not even technically permanent employees of the government be able to have access to nuclear codes, you don't know what they're going to do with those codes. They could easily give that away to other countries, make it easier to hack into it. Could be very dangerous. This is obviously this is a very bad decision. Trump doesn't care because to him it's not going to impact him potentially, so he doesn't care. It helps him, but do whatever Musk wants. Musk keeps giving him money. Goes back and forth. When Musk giving Trump money, Musk can get the data he wants. If it means he will sell it, he will sell it. He'll do whatever he wants with it. Luke uh, Farter is 23 years old, former SpaceX intern, and Adam Ramada, a Miami-based venture capitalist. They hold the accounts for the nuclear accounts. Those are the two employees. This report is false. So supposedly, the Doge stated that this report is false. Non-Doge personnel have accessed these NNSA systems. The two Doge individuals in question worked within the agency for several days and departed DOE in February. The spokesperson told NPR in an email statement. So suppose they claim that didn't happen. It's possible it did. In February, CNN reported that Doge employees, including Farito, was seeking access to the secretive computer systems at that time. Energy Secretary Chris Wright denied that they would be allowed on the networks. That's a the appropriate response. So they just keep going in details about this. So this is obviously a big problem. If it really did happen, it would be really tricky situation for the US. These are people that should not know nuclear codes. Just like I shouldn't know it, they shouldn't know it. This also comes during a controversy over Secretary of Defense Pete use of the publicly available encrypted messaging app Signal to send sensitive details of a military strike on Houthi rebels in Yemen. Yeah, so that was also not the whole issue that happened. They're very incompetent, but in the end, it's just to save money. In their minds, whatever way, not save money, but to make money for the rich and the wealthy, even that means compromising the defenses of the U.S. So this is another executive order from Trump, April 23rd, 2025, Advancing Artificial Intelligence, AI, Education for American Youth. So in a nutshell, Trump is basically stating that you should just use AI to educate children. That's not a good thing. AI is decent, it's a tool, but you have to be careful how it's utilized. This could be potentially opening the doors to replacing actual human teachers with AI generated teachers for at least for certain tasks. It could be problematic. If they're teaching the teachers how to use AI and as a tool and how it can help them write reports and make it easy to come up with a curriculum for the kids, that's fine. I use AI at my job as a tool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's when you purely rely on AI to do everything that becomes a problem. And you can't replace humans with just purely AI. It doesn't work that well. It's good to use AI as a tool and have someone constantly go over the algorithm and making sure the AI is actually working properly, is properly going through the algorithm of Google and getting all the information correctly, and having someone double check to make sure the information is accurate. Spelling, grammar, the citations they use, resources, all the citations they use from resources they utilize. You gotta make sure that everything is actually uh, correctly used and is actually not just legal out, but is real sources, not fake or extremely biased sources. So you gotta double check that too. That's very important. Like using some random news website we never heard of is problematic compared to using one that's more well known, like New York Times or NPR, as an example. So that's basically it about this. I don't think it's bad to use AI as a tool. I think it's fine to use a tool, but you need to have someone who oversees that with a team to keep updating it, to keep improving, to make sure it gets checked, and teach the teachers how to use as a tool, not to potentially replace teachers. I hope that's not the case. And but the thing is, I don't trust a lot of the executive orders from Trump because a lot of times he makes it seems to kind of save money, but in reality, just to get rid of the current employees we have as teachers, potentially if we can cut down the funding and replace them uh, with external employees. So meaning they will use subcontractors, teachers from other places, from other countries who are not used to the curriculum to cut the costs, and then use AI to kind of reduce the administrative work as much as they can and get rid of those employees. It's problematic because then you can get rid of hundreds and thousands of employees by doing this. AI has already been used to replace a lot of employees in the tech sector. It's been problematic in that sense too. Some people have been complaining how they can't reach proper customer service. It's always AI. That can backfire in the long term. Maybe not initially, but maybe 5, 10 years from now, it could be a problem. But who knows? AI is still improving. It's as bad as it's going to get now. It's only getting better. So it's hard to know if that's going to be properly replacing everyone. So educators, industry leaders, and employers who rely on an AI skilled workforce should partner to create education programs that equip students with essential AI skills and competencies across their learning pathways. Okay, so they trying to get teachers to get used to this and teach students how to use AI as a tool. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but AI education in kindergarten through 12th grade is critical, but it depends how they're going to define AI education. Are you going to have experts who use AI, maybe create their own AI tool, and they're going to help the teachers teach the students how to use AI? Yeah, it could be a useful tool. Or they're going to start replacing some of the teaching methods with AI. That's where you got to be careful not to cross the bridge too far and now it becomes too much AI doing the education, which is not going to be as good as actual human being doing the education, arguably speaking. Now that certain things that teachers can teach, that AI is going to be very robotic and not going to see the nuances that are important that teachers can explain to you, that can use the experience and cited reportable resources to back them up. That's very important. Again, AI is great as a tool, but it should not be replacing actual human workforce. I think it's a good idea to teach kids how to use AI as a tool and how it can help them draft a paper, report, make their life easier. I think that's okay. Whether that's how this executive order is going to be done that way is a different story. Improve education through AI. They want to provide resources through K to 12 with AI education. We have to see how that's going to work. Considering that Trump is trying to completely get rid of Department of Education and he's been dismantling the Department of Education, so he's doing the opposite of enhancing public education for the general public. So it's hard to know how this is going to work out properly. Again, I don't really trust Trump's executive orders like this. I think it's going to really be bad for the working class, middle class people, especially people from very low income households where they rely heavily on Department of Education for grants funding to be able to afford to go to college and be able to have any educational jobs in the state. So we have to keep that in mind too. I keep scrolling down. You guys can always pause and read more in detail. Everything's gonna be in my description. So if you guys really want to read it, again, I think AI would be great. It is great as a tool. I use it as a tool, but we have to be careful what Trump writes in executive order, how it's gonna be carried out. May not be done exactly how he's thinking. So this executive order from May 1st, 2025. Again, these executive orders that you see are from straight from the White House website. So whitehouse.gov. Ending taxpayer subsidization of biased media. Now, when Trump is talking about biased media, right, those are the key words in this biased media. He's talking about the more left leaning social media platforms and online news websites. So I place like NPR, PBS, Trump doesn't like them. But New York Times, he may have issues with them. He loves Fox News, like Fox 5 News, which is very right wing media. And we already know from research that a lot of these right wing media, just like right wingers in general, are not very much based on actual scientific evidence and to back up the claims. It's based on more feelings, their own personal experience and adulthood experiences, what their parents taught them. what religion taught them. It's not so much based on what is science this, what are scientists telling us, the experts telling us on this topic. A lot of the more left-leaning newspaper articles, newspaper online articles, and left-leaning social media platforms tend to be more scientific based. Scientists themselves tend to be more left-leaning. It's just the truth. They're not, in general, not religious. Sometimes they're agnostic atheists. They against as scientists, they go by scientific method. So the closest thing you can get to uh, a fact in science is a scientific theory backed up by replicated evidence from other scientists. Nothing's really truly a fact to the T in science, and that's okay. But with the whole biased media situation here, this can really backfire. This is going to have to journalists who will question Trump at the White House, who will question him about his made up lies he makes. Like the whole interview he had at ABC News. I made a whole video about this too. And Trump was annoyed that he was fact checked right in the interview about the whole MS-13 gang tattoos on Garcia's knuckles, right, his hands and fingers. They were obviously photoshopped, like it's extremely obvious. And Trump was acting as if the guy's being all bi and stuff. No, you're lying. Makes him look dumb, or it makes Trump look stupid, but he's also just lying. He knows it's a fucking Photoshop. We know Trump is not so ignorant not to know what Photoshop is. He wants to create this idea that this person's so evil and so violent. I did the right thing not providing due process for this violent gang member. When Garcia has no evidence of being part of a gang. So we gotta keep that in mind. This is the whole point of due process. You go through the process and you prove your case. That's not proving your case. So this is just talks about bias. I just going down. Not talk too much about directly exactly to word by word what it says it, but this is gonna go after NPR PBS, as I said earlier. Clearly says here the CPB board shows sees indirect funding to NPR and PBS. NPR and PBS they require a lot of funding, which a lot of it came from the federal government to sustain themselves. Right, some of it comes from private donations, but not all of it. A good chunk it comes from the grants they get from the federal government. So this session really matters. So when he talks about biased media, he's not talking about the right wing ones like Fox News, Fox 5 News. He's talking about NPR, PBS, uh, ABC News potential, CNN. He might get annoyed at times with AP News, anything that is not exactly right wing to the extreme. So this one just cutting funding from the news article, online news article websites that actually go out of their way to fact check Trump and his entire administration. He doesn't like that. This article is from April 28, 2025. Daily Wire website. Democrats unveil 7 articles of impeachment against Trump. We know this is not going to go anywhere because Republicans have the full control uh, practically of the Senate and the House. So at least they have not necessarily full control, but they have the majority in the Senate and in the House. So this is not gonna go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere back in the late 2010s, and because again it was a similar situation. We never had the majority of Democrats to be able to pull it off, and 100% would not go anywhere this time. It would be great if it did, and it's not the first time they tried to have these articles on impeachment this year, but they've been trying to get rid of this guy, aka Trump, but it's not gonna happen. As much as wanted to happen, I don't see that happening. We will see if we even gonna have a state election next year. That's a whole other discussion. We have some state election this year coming soon in some states. I believe Virginia and New Jersey had the primary election. I think New Jersey is June, and I think Virginia is also in later June or early July. So those state elections matter because you need to have more left leaning representation state. Otherwise, you're gonna have this extreme downturn of the economy that only helps the rich and the wealthy, not the poor, working class, middle class people. And unfortunately, Republicans are not there for the working class. They're only there for the rich and the wealthy. Look at the entire Trump administration. They're only kissing Trump's ass. Republicans in Congress, they do whatever Trump wants. Uh, the majority of your Supreme Court are Republican, right wing mentality, and they mainly support what Trump wants. And we have to keep those things in mind. Even though abortion rights should be allowed ever in this country, you should have the choice. Look what happened in your Supreme Court. Look how even when they agree on something, bringing back uh, Garcia, Trump is still ignoring it and nothing gets done. He can ignore the US Supreme Court decision and they do nothing against him. It's a problem. This other article is from May 1st, 2025. Fact check Trump's HHS review on trans care filled with pseudoscience pushes conversion therapy. We already know the whole situation with Trump administration being very transphobic. They don't like transgender people. Republicans overall just like this. They're always based off their belief in general with religion. They allowed to connect that with religion, even though transgender people do not impact their lives, but they sure as fuck want to destroy their lives. So this is a fact check website talking about all these things. On Thursday, May 1st, the Trump administration Department of Health and Human Services, which again is overseen by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., unfortunately, released a report masquerading as science, but serving as a blunt instrument of ideological warfare against transgender youth. Yeah, so they basically are trying to bring back conversion therapy, and we know that conversion therapy is not something that really works at all. It actually creates a lot of problems for people who are transgender, as it really fucks up their mental health. You're forcing people to be something they're not. And when we check when we do like brain scans of people who are transgender women, transgender men, they do think as the gender choice. So someone who's a transgender woman has a brain who functions more like a woman's brain, while a transgender man's brain functions more like a male's brain. This already been shown scientifically speaking by neuroscientists. So in neuroscience, we already seen this. We've seen brain scans of this. So it demonstrates that this is not just a joke. This is not something that people just felt like changing their minds, searching their genders. It's not like that. These people do think like their gender identity. We have to keep that in mind. Transgender women are women, and transgender men are men. It's not that hard to understand that transgender people are exactly what the gender identity is, what they identify as their gender. It's not really surprisingly. It makes sense. It's literally how the brain functions and connects to the gender identity. So obviously we know JFK Jr. is a complete quack and he is not a medical expert of any kind. He has no PhD in medicine. He has no medical degree. He's an idiot. He himself has multiple fucking issues. Complete anti-vaxxer, he's against vaccines. All the BS stuff. Now, claim transgender healthcare should be judged based on how unemployed a person is or how many romantic partners they have. Why? Why only do that to transgender people? That doesn't make sense. Fact, transgender healthcare, like all medical care, is judged according to the impact it has on patient health, as well as patient satisfaction with the care received. This matters. That's just, it's really dumb. Yeah, it's really dumb to say things like that. Now, another claim European countries are pulling back on transgender healthcare. That's untrue. Fact, the talking point that Europe is pulling back on transgender care is now truly outdated. In fact, several European nations have moved to in the opposite direction, which is true. France, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland have all released recent reports that directly contradict the rationale behind documents like the case review and this freshly released Trump administration review. Claim transgender people may actually just be gay and transitioning is a form of conversion therapy. What? That doesn't make sense. Um, Gender and sexuality are different. Yes, they are. Many transgender people identify as gay or bisexual after transition, and gay acceptance is higher than trans acceptance, which is true. Here's more data, more information about sexual orientation of respondents. Another claim transgender youth are more common today because of mass social contagion, which is not true, and the transgender people are experiencing rapid onset gender dysphoria. Transgender people, here's a fact transgender people often know about the gender identity for years before coming out, which is true. Kids as young as 4 years old, 3 years old can already feel like their gender is different from what they were born as. This is very true. That's already been happening since they're toddlers. It's not something that happened when the teenagers or social media somehow changed their mind. That's not how it works. Which can be rapid, the increase in recent years is not due to contagion, a discredited theory, but rather increased social acceptance of transgender people. Again, that is correct. I read parental research on this as well. Claims psychiatric care for transgender youth is not conversion therapy. Conversely, conversion therapy is conversion therapy to treat gender dysphoria can work. Untrue. Fact, conversion therapy is enormously harmful for transgender youth, and psychotherapy alone has never been shown as effective in curing gender dysphoria. It's not. So that's basically the article. Very interesting data. I really do recommend everyone watching this video to watch this more in this portion of the video in detail. It's very interesting, the data. Now, in the end, I want to know what you guys think about the situation. If you agree, disagree with what stated, if you agree with what Trump has done, and what FK Jr. is doing towards transgender people, and all the executive order from Trump, and the articles of impeachment against Trump, if you agree with that or not. If you like the video, like and subscribe. Watch this TikTok, follow us on TikTok. And I truly hope that everyone has a safe and good day.